Roaring Kitty is back.
Roaring Kitty posted some weird ass Uno card today.
Is it the reverse?
The reverse, yes. And then someone at one of the new Reddit boards posted that he has like $115 million stake in GME, GameStop right now. He has some like crazy $60 million call option that he's way in on the money. It's obviously caused the stock in overnight trading. It's up like, 20% now at night. Gonna be complete fucking mania tomorrow. This dude is manipulating the stock in a legal way because all he's doing is posting memes.
Wouldn't you love to hear the conversation with his lawyer where the
he's like, Jim, can I please post this? If this flukes out after Tuesday, he's a billionaire, then the story is epic. Because if he ends up being a billionaire, he won, in my opinion. Because that ultimately means he's on the playing field with the big boys and he did it unconventional.
Cash.
Ladies and gentlemen, group chat.
Cash.
It's $1 trillion. Hot.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
So Anand's gone for a week.
Anand's gone for a week.
Man.
So
I know I'm sounding like a complainy little bitch right now.
Yeah.
But I want all of those Cathys.
Yeah.
That gave me shit. He's gone for 3 episodes.
3 episodes.
I was gone for 3 episodes.
Yeah.
I got hell.
Yeah.
And where's he? Like in, the south of France on a boat somewhere?
He's the epitome of the woke coastal elite.
He is.
Thumbs his nose
He is.
at the working class American and then jaunts off.
He's like, oh, Elon's such an asshole, but trying to get a spot in his new funding round.
Yeah, exactly.
This guy is fake woke.
He's obviously woke is fake.
So you know what to do. Give Anand all the shit you gave me. But here we are. So the original 2, me and D, plus one of our favorite guests of all time, a regular on the pod.
Yes.
Who do we got?
Ian Rodgers, good friend of ours.
He's a group chat Naval.
Yeah, group chat Naval.
Right.
Yes.
We're just keeping it in balance.
Right.
If your brother's going to go to France, then I'm going to come here.
Right. We traded.
Yeah, we traded. Just keep it. Otherwise, the planet stops spinning.
Right, you got to exchange one for one.
We have an action-packed episode of some very exciting topics to talk about.
I just realized I didn't even look, but I'm pretty sure I'm up to date. Is Ian here for the whole episode?
Ian's here for the whole episode.
Love it.
I want to kick it off with what I think is the big news of the week before we dive into a full update from Ian, because I'm just chomping at the bit.
Is it Trump?
It's Trump. And it's most importantly Trump at UFC.
Oh my God. Did you watch it?
I watched the clip.
Woo. The clip doesn't even do it near justice. Do you watch UFC, Ian?
No.
Okay. So you'll hear all about it.
Fill me in.
Tell me what you saw and I'll tell you the rest.
I saw like a 15-second clip with Theo Vaughn.
Yep.
Like flexing.
Yep.
And it was Dana White, Donald Trump. And then he was like basically waving to the crowd, like, and it was just like, it was the crazy eruption.
And then like on camera, there's little details, like on camera, he shook Rogan's hand and Rogan's mic'd.
Yeah.
So you can hear him say, thank you, sir, whatever, while shaking hand. The crowd roared. Yeah. Keep in mind, this guy's 24 hours off of a conviction. Like I've never known of any person who is so unfazable.
Yeah.
Like the hardest
workers. He didn't
stay
home for one night.
For one night? You didn't want to skip a fight? Just to be like, let me kind of figure this out and strategize a little bit. So it doesn't care at all. Doesn't skip a beat. Probably did like 10 press appearances and then went to that. The big thing that got me was every fighter on the main card that won immediately jumped over the fence, which you're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
Ran straight to Trump and shook his hand.
It's insane.
Everyone. And they showed it. It was literally like Trump's fight league. And like you fight for Trump. And if you win, you get to shake Trump's hand. That's what it looked like. It was insane. And every time they showed him,
it's like what Russia erupted. Is probably like.
Yes. Yeah. And I don't know, man. I mean,
So Javier,
Yes.
he works with me,
The boys.
one of the boys, was at, I would assume, a sports bar in Venice, because that's where he lives.
Yep.
And he said the sports bar in Venice, California. Keep in mind, Venice, California.
Yeah.
And Venice is the beach town of Los Angeles.
Right. And just for the listener, if you don't know, Venice is like
It's like where the hippie movement started.
right. But it's also now today, it's like the rich, like hipstery.
Yeah.
It's super, super, super left.
Yeah.
Like 8 years ago, they throw drinks at the screen
Yes.
when Trump comes on.
He said the bar erupted
In Cheers.
in Venice, California.
Wow.
You know how insane that is?
I mean, look, I feel the need to say it every time. I am not a Trump supporter. I did not and will not be voting for him, but I think we got to accept what we're seeing here. I feel like
He could win every state.
he could literally, it could be record-breaking electoral college.
I was, every dinner I go, like if it's like a couples thing, who I know are traditionally very liberal people, everyone is telling me they're voting for Trump. Like 100% of people.
And you know what I notice is nobody has that like disgust.
No.
And I think that the secret voters are way more,
Yeah.
but nobody is like disgusted when you bring it up. And we're in LA. We're in the lefty bubble.
Yeah. We're in the bubble of all bubbles.
It's nuts. It's really nuts. I think look, when he won in 2016, I was like, what?
I was shocked.
Like, what? Like, I knew some people supported him, but who, that many?
Yeah.
He seems like our fucking Kim Jong-un.
And it's not even like forced.
Right,
People actually like him.
Right. And all night they were chanting USA.
Yeah.
USA.
And what?
At the UFC.
Fuck Joe Biden, right? That kept.
Yeah.
So.
But everyone, even the Muslim, Khabib, as well as the Muslim Islam is his name. They both went up to him. They were on camera shaking his hand.
Yeah.
You would think they would like,
And I think one of them said, like, you need to stop the war. And he's
Did
like, we're going to stop it. We're going to stop it.
Right. Yeah, because they're from Dagestan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, we can... we just got to watch the show at this point.
It's a very entertaining show. And I think the other thing, just if you want to talk about the momentum for the week. So tomorrow, the United States Congress starts interviewing Fauci. This week is Fauci on the stand.
That should be pay-per-view.
I mean, that guy is going to be the most hated person in the world by the end of this week.
He really is.
Because here's how I was, I started reading a bunch of articles about the emails and what they did. And it really just felt like a power trip. Ultimately, like they felt like playing God.
Right.
And they did. And the way that this is what happens, like he got a little bit of the taste doing the press conference. And the next thing you know it, they're like, oh, everyone's listening to whatever I say.
Right.
You got to stand 6 feet. Kids got to wear masks.
Right.
You can't go here. You can't eat at a restaurant. You can't do this.
Right.
All of a sudden, you are the emperor.
Right.
Like he made all the rules for us for 1 year.
And the only slight alteration that I want to make to, this is just my perception of it, is, which is kind of hand in hand, is I get the sense that he and them are so arrogant.
Yeah.
That they genuinely just believe they know better than everyone.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And that I don't even think they realize like, wow, what a fun time to be able to control the world. I think they thought like, I should be the one controlling the world. Finally.
Yeah.
Finally, I call the shots.
Yeah, I think there's like a distinction with elites. Like there's financial elites and there's intellectual elite.
Yeah, Anand's financial.
Financial elite.
And then Fauci's intellectual elite. Right. And now he's financial because that motherfucker, I'm sure,
for sure, made
a killing over the last 3 years. 4 years, whatever.
Ian, being in France throughout this whole thing.
Ian, I don't know if you're you're going to get in trouble.
I have two things. I have two responses that I'm wondering from you is specifically on Fauci and the rules of America. How much do you think that it made an impact in France, or were you guys disconnected?
I mean, it feels like everyone was in the same boat at that time of knowing very little and trying to, make up rules for something that was just unprecedented. And I agree.
Yeah.
I think that they had almost no information, right? My daughter at the time was on a weekly call with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and was one of the most freaked out people that I knew, because not because of what she heard, but because she's like, Dad, these are the smartest people on the planet who know the most, and they don't know anything.
Wow.
Right. So the way I think about it is these guys were being looked to for the rules. They knew almost nothing. So like, I guess 6 feet, masks, and there were people that were, I think in my sense is that in France as well as the US, they're like searching for answers and just trying to,
And someone was willing to give them. Yeah.
Yeah. And somebody was willing to give them.
Fauci controlled the world.
Yeah.
And everyone followed us
also,
except for China and Russia.
Think about at the time though, how we were all looking at, countries like Sweden.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That were really just like, no. We have no evidence. This is the right thing to do. Yeah. I mean, I remember what I said at the time is, I'm glad it's not my job to decide like, shut down the economy or kill grandma. Which one?
Right.
That was kind of the choice that that the powers that be had. And you had places like Sweden where they were like, you know what? We don't know. Just maybe kill grandma. Let's not stop the economy,
Yeah.
And so, but I think that you're right, that people, there are people that are just like, well, we can't make the kill grandma decision. Right.
Yeah.
So we have to make the other one. And I don't think they really knew, what that was. That was, that was my take.
Here's a question I have and I know nobody here knows the answer. You can't. If we are pretty sure that this came from a lab, which was funded by, Fauci's authorization. My question is, how do you not know it's this virus that leaked?
Yeah.
Here's how this virus is going to behave.
Yeah.
So things like masks outdoors won't work. Things like washing your groceries with disinfectant won't work. It's an airborne.
Maybe they're shitty scientists.
Right.
They could have just been shitty scientists.
Right.
This could be the B team.
Like,
They let the B team control this gain of function research.
Because there were guys on Joe Rogan that were saying things that now the B team didn't.
Yeah. And
but did they not know? Or was it or was this all part of trying to be like,
deniability? Imagine if they just told us what to do because they knew how it behaved. Right. Then
imagine if they said, "Hey, a virus leaked."
Guilt. You would have admitted guilt.
I know, but just imagine a world where they say, "Hey, we were doing this.
Yeah,
we were doing it with the best of intentions. It leaked. Here's how it's going to behave. It's going to be it's based off of a coronavirus. We made it more transmissible. It is airborne."
So you I know that sounds very logical.
Right.
As someone that watched a lot of these types of movies in the past,
right.
the way that they always portrayed it in the movie, and I actually do believe this is the case when it comes to the government,
right,
is you can't handle that information.
I know.
You can't handle that the United States government was funding research on these transmissible viruses.
Right.
Well, because
let me just tell you what else I don't think you can handle.
If you break that trust.
Exactly.
But let me tell you what I think is way more toxic. Now, I agree with you. And who would have done it? And I think hopefully now somebody's going to pay the price, which they
no one's paying the price.
Right. But here's my point. You want to know what's way more psychologically harmful than that is if we go back and try to remember, there were videos of people supposedly dying in the streets of China, and this thing is coming, and you don't know how you get it. You don't know how bad it's going to be. You don't know if you're going to die. You don't know if young people die. Oh, you have no idea. That's what we were told.
Yes. All lies.
But also like the most fear ridden.
Yeah. Remember the tanks?
Yes.
Remember when the tanks were coming? Your cousin Greg at the Pentagon?
Oh, remember everyone knew cousin Greg at the Pentagon? Oh, man.
It's literally the biggest sham of our lifetime.
It might be the biggest sham of human lifetime.
No, there's way bigger shams. We just didn't have this type of
Give me an example. Every human
wars. I bet you world wars that killed millions of people.
Because you want to know why? In world wars, there were still massive amounts of people that were pretty much safe in their homes, untouched, not worrying about, sure, Cuban Missile Crisis. There's these moments where, like, yes, they were teaching atomic bomb drills in schools.
Yeah.
Scary. But like, this is every human
on Earth
scared to death of this mystery disease. And then another wave of forced to take a vaccine.
Yeah.
Then economy.
Can you imagine? This is why there may be a chance where Trump actually wins all 50 states.
Right.
And the reason why is, if you think about what he got convicted for.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Misclassifying hush money.
Hush money, right?
Yeah.
Which is
82 felonies.
Who did he cause harm?
Right.
He broke some laws. He federally did something very illegal.
Yeah.
If you think about what Fauci and his homies did, they're not going to be charged with anything.
No. Do you think? Does it get so bad? I think Americans are going to, already do, but are going to hate Fauci on a level like even more than people hate George Bush for Iraq, I think.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't think if you asked who's the most hated person in America, George Bush is not top 10.
Fauci's top 3.
Who's number 1?
Maybe Fauci. I don't know. I'm just.
I would say it's Trump or Fauci or Biden. Those are the top 3.
Yeah. It's just like, so what happens? That there's no even fake punishment?
But here's the thing is we're obviously getting all riled up about it.
Yeah.
Is everyone else, or they don't give a fuck?
I think there's a pretty big wave. I think there's a pretty.
Are you angry?
Do people understand it? Is a question. Like,
yeah.
Well, that I would not count on at all.
Yeah.
I mean, we barely understand it. We just know what we have seen. But yeah, I think there's a pretty big wave. I think if you went to every person in the country and said, who do you hate the most in this country? There's a chance Dr. Fauci might be the most named person.
I'm trying to think. Who do I hate?
Well, you probably hate a lot of people, but we're talking about a different,
It's my hatred is more like sports hatred.
I know, but you have to keep in mind that most of the country isn't isn't yous.
Most of the country hates sports people more than they hate anyone.
That might be true. But I think, let me say most voters.
Yeah. Voters.
Yeah. I would almost undeniably say, if you asked voters, everyone who voted at the polls, also, who do you hate?
Yeah.
I would be willing to bet that Dr. Fauci would be one or two.
Not a write-in. His name has to be there.
I think that the testimony is going to matter.
Yeah.
Right. Because the question is like, if it's clear, like, wow, you fucked up 2 years of my life. You know what I mean? Then it's 100% true. If it's less clear, if the blame is,
I'm going to go out on a limb and say they purposely give him softball questions.
Oh, but isn't it like Ron Paul and them? They fucking hate him.
I know, but they may get a phone call.
Keep going.
They may get a phone call.
Okay.
We cannot lose the trust of the American people. Someone knocks on Rand Paul's door tonight.
Right.
It's not good for either party.
You got to shut the fuck up.
No, it's not good for anybody.
I don't think it's good for the world. And so if I'm the powers that be, I throw Rand a bone. I'm like, well, what stock you want to trade?
Right. He's already done it. Yeah. But wouldn't you argue though that the most cathartic thing for the country, if the testimony goes bad, let's say, would be to punish him? Don't you think that's better?
Do you understand? Like, I'm not an angry person. When I read all this, it took away like the last year of my dad's life with me.
Yeah.
That's fucking nuts.
And like,
because some guy made up some goddamn rules.
That's
but
my
there are
point.
people.
Yeah,
That's my point.
that shit pissed
if
me
that
off.
is clear, like everybody has that. Everybody has that story.
that's
You know, we
people
canceled
have
my
the
daughter's
worst
wedding.
ones.
It was a pivotal moment in my, you know, my elderly mother's life where she went from, you know, kind of an active life to a much less active one. So like that. Everybody has that. So if it's clear, then I agree. And I agree that people will be looking for, you know, then it would be cathartic to actually, you know,
the thing is
be accountable.
Be accountable.
Yeah. And I think the problem is the distrust then between like institutional.
Don't you trust more if he's punished?
Yes, I that's fair. And I think the problem is like you have Trump now riding this wave. I think he said on Fox News today, he's going to declassify 9/11, declassify everything.
Right, give us
Fuck
JFK.
it. Let's just burn the house down.
Yeah.
Which shit, maybe that's what we need at this point because we need to rebuild back trust.
Yeah.
That
build back better,
that there is intention of good from the people that run this country. Because right now, if you asked an average person their confidence level of a politician, either local or federally, there's
zero.
I mean, if you're sitting at home and let's say you live in LA and you like, I love what my local city council person is doing, you're out of your fucking mind.
Or you're 90.
Yeah.
One of the, which is also probably out of their mind. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think the only people that feel that way are 80 and up.
I think those people also lived through like J. Edgar Hoover and Watergate. You know what I mean? Like it's
But don't you think there's like
nothing new.
Floridians, like 85-year-old Floridians that just think Ron DeSantis is.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
The weather's been hot and it's staying hot. I love it.
Ron.
Captain Ron.
My Lord and Savior Ron. What would we do without him? If we had one of those lefties, there'd be crime and prostitution everywhere.
What's going on in France in terms of like political? Because obviously America is, you know, leaning right for this election. And I know historically, recently in France, it's always been pretty left. How's it feeling there?
I mean, I'm not the expert on French politics, but you know, look, I moved there 8.5 years ago. So I moved there, you know, before Trump and before Macron. Right. So, and I think, you know, what it felt like in when, you know, Trump came in to the presidency in the US, it felt like the world was upside down. Like you guys said, nobody thought going into that election that was, you know, a very likely outcome, I think, including Trump. Right. We know that as well. Right. So if that's the case, then it's the case. And I think when Macron came into office, it felt like when Obama came in, right? Where people our age, I mean, I remember how I felt when Obama was elected. It felt like, okay, this feels a little bit more like my generation, you know what I mean? Than anything I felt in the past. And that's what it felt like with Macron as well. You know, he certainly, you know, had his detractors, and you've got in France, you have Marine Le Pen, you know, who comes from a very far right party that has like, you know, super far right ties if you go back far enough. And there is, you know, I think that there isn't, I think it's accurate to say, and again, I don't want to be definitive because I'm not the expert, but I think it's accurate to say that party increases. You know, it's not the majority by far, but they aren't losing people, right? They gain support. Like I think that what you have is this sort of tribalism everywhere in the world. You know, I was at the JP Morgan conference back in 21, and they put up on the screen this you know, graphic showing that with the exception of Bill Clinton, every president for the last 100 years has been further from the median than the one before. Wow. Right? So whether it was left or right, you know, you kind of get further out from the middle, which I would argue, especially in our lifetimes, is a lot to do with media as well. Right. You know, you know, and then there were a bunch of like, you know, old billionaires on stage going, when do we get back to a more centrist political dialogue? And the answer is What, you're going to go
Been
back
on
to
TikTok?
Yeah, exactly. You're going to go back to 3 channels on television? I don't think so, guys. Like, that's not what happens here. Right. I think we go the opposite. We go where AI drives us to having like truly personalized, like one-to-one programming, which, which gives us more exactly what we want. And then you end up, continuing with this ping pong. So I don't think France is any different. But I think, one thing, if you look at what you hear going on over there right now is, like pretty strong talk when it comes to what's going on in the Ukraine, et cetera. So I think that, France definitely sees itself as, an independent state, right? Even the way that Macron and his people talk about artificial intelligence, right? It's like, they say we don't want this to be owned by, US and China alone. We have to be in this game. Right. So they do think that they're, it's a country of 50 million people that's asking itself, how do we show up on the global stage when there's 330 million people in the US and, well over 1 billion in China? How do we do that? And I think that's, that it's and the answer, of course, is the Olympics. Well, there we go. Solved.
Right. There you go. Problem solved.
I'm excited for the Olympics.
Yeah.
I want to see,
you coming over?
So, I would love to, actually.
Will you be there, Ian, for the Olympics?
We're just going to go for the volleyball finals. And apart from that, we're going to do our best to avoid it.
Are you going to stay in town? I know a lot of friends who live there are leaving just because they think it's going to be crazy.
We'll be out for the most part. We'll be in a little bit, and we are gonna dip back in just for the weekend of the volleyball finals, and then dip back out. I mean, literally from my apartment, I have to have a QR code on my phone to get home.
Oh right? My God!
It's a brutal city for it,
madness.
Right?
Yeah,
yeah.
I am. I'm always interested. So I was on the PacSun website yesterday, and they dropped.
What were you doing on the PacSun website?
Well, because we sell Young and Reckless sells there.
He's just forever 18.
Yeah, and to be fair, I still shop there. I like it. Right. And they dropped a USA Olympics collection.
Right. Team USA.
Just like a patriotic collection. Right. And obviously, Olympics is 2 months away, and I was like, "Damn, this looks great." And I'm thinking to myself, when you see like, it's funny because my 6-year-old loves wearing USA stuff.
Yeah. He's a little MAGA kid. I love it.
He loves USA. He just loves America.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to see with specifically Gen Z with the Olympics coming up. Yeah. And that is the time where you have like the most pride of your country, every country. If you have you all of a sudden show pride for it. Yeah. I'm really curious to see, do we have that pride and patriotism of Team USA going into, like, I think it's an opportunity to bring people together. And I think the Nikes of the world need to put out like commercials with the right athletes that are not polarizing, that actually bring people together. Right. Because the Olympics for me as a child, I remember all of it. I remember the stars. I remember the events. I remember being glued to my television.
I know, but if you were that age right now, you know what you would remember? Trump at UFC.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I think. But to Ian's point, I think they're like the PacSun buyer or shopper. I think there will be an uptick in USA from shit
Trump.
Like that.
Yeah.
Like the Nelk boys and they're all very like USA right now, which I think is great.
Yeah.
And Theo Vaughn and all of these podcasters, Cameron Haynes and Joe Rogan, and they're all very
Team USA.
Yeah. And I think that has more of a shot for the PacSun shopper.
Yeah.
Too, because I do agree with Ian, like they're more likely to remember Trump at UFC, a high school kid, than have like a favorite pole vaulter. Yeah. They're like, can't wait to see. You know what I mean?
I love the Olympics. That's so awesome. I love those stories.
Yeah, but I think UFC you're the youngest.
Olympics? There's wrestling, but not UFC.
Yeah, there is wrestling and boxing. But
there's a lag. There's definitely a lag.
There should be MMA. Yeah. But yeah. I think you're the youngest of the Olympics watchers.
Youngest?
Yeah.
I think you that's insane.
I think so.
I think you're underestimating how big youth sports are still in America. It's huge still. right? Like,
I hear you, but
Yeah,
But
I
I
mean,
think-
look, that's the reason we're going too, because my daughter plays volleyball, right? So,
yeah.
But does your daughter care, or do you care and you're telling her this is a cool thing to check out?
it's probably the latter more than the former.
Right.
You're right.
she doesn't know. I'm sure she
I
knows the
think-
players.
I think she's interested, but no, it was not. She wasn't like begging to go. It was.
I mean, every 4 years
something
is
we were able to
ridiculous.
do. Yeah.
Yeah.
How old's your daughter?
17.
Right. So
Yeah.
she's 13. She doesn't.
Yeah. She didn't care when she was 13. Yeah.
Wait till you got turning around quicker.
Yeah.
We're
2
on
years.
TikTok timeline here.
Yeah.
Give me
I mean, if
Olympics
that's the
every
case,
month.
you need Olympics every 6
I
months.
need an Olympics once a month. Here's the
4 days.
January Olympics. Here's the February Olympics.
All right. So one of the things I wanted to talk about, and you brought it up briefly already, it's interesting regarding AI. Most of Europe seems like they're like anti-AI and anti like innovation has always been, just knowing the venture ecosystem there now pretty well. I'm curious because you guys are building Ledger in Paris, and I feel like Paris is a lot further along than all the other cities in Europe. Well, London, I feel like, is building cool stuff, but like outside of Paris, maybe Berlin feels like it's still doing really cool shit. But for the most part, I saw a Twitter thread of someone said, Europe's not a serious place to build technology right now because of all the regulation. And you guys are doing it despite that. And you're doing it in the sector, which is probably the most threatening to central banks all over the world, right?
Yeah.
How do you feel like, because I know a lot of kids want to move to Europe and run a business. That's everyone's dream in America. If you're 25, you just want to go live in Portugal,
Right.
and run your cool little tech company and surf and go to Italy on the weekends, right? That's the dream.
I was in Lisbon less than a week ago, last Monday night, and that is quite real. Like what's going on in Lisbon right now is it's a dream. So I would say if you are 21 years old and just out of college and you're looking to work and have a great time, but that's different than the question you're asking, which is about the companies, right? And it's definitely a challenge for us, I think here's the context that I've learned. When, right now, for example, crypto, there is crypto regulation in the EU and there is not in the US. It's a shit show in the US and we don't know what the rules are. And, the Biden administration and Gensler have like continue to wage war on crypto, including, Biden just vetoing.
Double down. Yeah.
Yeah. Double down, which is just madness because it was
So stupid.
a bipartisan. What he just did is really truly ridiculous in that there was a bipartisan decision to pull back on a banking situation, which basically keeps banks from custodying crypto. Right. So they basically it's not something smart to do if you were trying to actually protect investors. You would only do something this extreme if you are literally just trying to wage war on crypto and kind of stifle this type of innovation. Like that's how extreme it is in the US at the moment. Meanwhile, there is actually regulation in Europe. But the dynamic is that in the US, when things don't move, it's because things work. This is what we don't appreciate because it's such a ball ache to get things done in DC that we think like, shit doesn't work. But the reality is that's a feature, not a bug. It's very hard to get stuff done in the US. And what that amounts to, again, if it depends on what you want, but if you want less government, which if you're pro innovation, then you generally do, then you would say, okay, that's the US system working. The EU, on the other hand, is simply a regulation machine. They write and print and enact regulation without opposition from anyone. It is their job to just keep piling up regulation. So what you get what's
the reasoning behind that? Like, what do they think they're accomplishing?
I think they think that they are protecting something, right? So you could say in some cases they're protecting, the citizens. In some cases, they're protecting economic interests or business, but the idea
well,
is,
I guess with the sake of food,
right?
they're protecting the health of the people.
Sure.
Whereas here,
True.
I mean, there's a thing viral that's going on Fruity Pebbles, the ingredients in Europe versus the ingredients in America.
Yeah.
And it's so clean, the ingredients in Europe, and in America it's dyes and fucking
Everything.
COVID.
Yeah. Some of the Fauci put some ingredients. Yeah.
No, so I think you have to start at that place. And then, but the reality is if you're a business, like, the example that I use, a friend who, had a security incident in his company in America, and he found out about it from the FBI. Right. Wow. And they actually helped them solve the problem. Over there, you're going to get, the hammer comes down on you as if you made some sort of mistake when something like that goes on. Right. So it really is like it is extreme in both directions, like it's extremely business friendly in the US. You could argue too business friendly. It's business friendly at the expense of the citizenry, right? Yeah. But there it is, it's the opposite. And you have such a fractionalized audience, right? So, you have 700 million people in the total greater Europe. But you don't have one tax system. You don't have one postal system. You don't have one language. You don't, whereas, so that's why if you are a company, there's sort of the support that you get from, the infrastructure around you. And is the environment pro-business or not? And then there's also just the addressable market. And the US just has this combination of both that's unparalleled. So if you're starting a company, like the US, is the place in terms of that friendliness as well as the audience. And I would say, look, like we're doing very well in France, and France does like us. I mean, like, look, when we raised our Series C, Macron congratulated us on LinkedIn. Like that's not going to happen to a company like us in the US. So it's nice to be, the big fish in that smaller pond. It does have, some advantages, but I would say generally speaking, we spend more time explaining to the government, fighting with the government, than we would if we were in the US. And I would say, and I'm being polite in many ways, we've succeeded in spite of, not because of. At the same time, I moved there 8.5 years ago, and I've been, I've had the pleasure actually of being pretty involved because of LVMH. I was a part of the setup of the Viva Technology Conference. They host a lot of US VCs once a year, and in the beginning, they brought me out to, as like, okay, here's the guy that moved from Apple to LVMH. Hey, Ian, come tell him what it's like to work in France. And when that came back around, say 2 or 3 years later, and they brought these VCs back and they asked me to do it again, I said, okay, I'll do it, but I need you to show me what you've done in the last 3 years to actually make it, more friendly for startups here. Because when the Macron administration took power, Tony Fadell and I went to all of our friends in Silicon Valley and said, tell us why you wouldn't do business or why you wouldn't fund a company in France. And we had a very complete list, and we shared that list with the administration. And it wasn't like bullshit complaining stuff like, well, people don't work hard enough, or, that it was like, look, the government can't interfere with your exit. I need to be able to hire and fire, like real things.
You can't fire in France, right?
Well, here's the thing. It has gotten easier. Since, but at the same time, I mean, we went through a round of layoffs at Ledger last year, like many crypto companies did. And it certainly cost a lot more and took a lot more time. So it cost more, not only in terms of pure dollars, but also in terms of like time and morale. In the US, you have this ability to just kind of rip the Band-Aid off and then get back on your feet and keep going.
You are a survivor. You're lucky you're here.
Whereas like in France, it's it is very employee friendly, which certainly has its its upsides, right? And at the same time, it takes, compared to the US, it's a long process, and you kind of feel it more. as a company, as somebody who's been through it a lot on the US side, and now been through it on the side there too. So, I would say that things have changed a lot, but is it competitive on the world stage? Absolutely not. You know what I mean? Like it's,
so if what people in France think when they see like Ari Gold in Entourage, like just cleaning someone's desk and get the fuck out of here. They must be like, oh, in what world can you do that?
So if you're like a 25-year-old starting a business and you could live anywhere in the world, would it still be in America?
I think that the interesting thing, I mean, I saw we had the story about Starlink today. I mean, it's true what Balaji says, that Starlink has repriced the world. So to me, there's separate questions, because like as that, person starting a business, the question is, where do you start that business? Where is the business domiciled? So for me, if I was starting a business today, that the US is hard to compete with. Now, if I'm an engineer, I might say, I want to live in Lisbon, and you can really do that. And there are, competing with, with companies that are, that are offering like global remote work programs all the time. And look, there's super interesting things going on. I mean, the Wyoming Dow thing is just getting set up right now. There's, like,
what is that?
So there's this great book called The Company, which is about the limited liability corporation, right? So this thing that one of the most amazing things that happened in the 20th century is that companies got the rights of people, basically, right? And we have this thing that we all take for granted now called limited liability companies. And your companies are domiciled where, in what state?
California or Delaware?
Delaware.
Depends.
I mean, do you really have a Delaware corp? I mean, I'm sorry, a California corp?
California here.
No, I have a Delaware corp.
Wow. But yeah, exactly. I mean, Delaware so what Wyoming is doing is trying to be that for distributed autonomous organizations, right? So the to these new kind of companies. So I think the interesting thing is you come back to Fauci, right? COVID definitely like opened the door. I would say it's a confluence of COVID, Starlink, DAOs. Like there is kind of a new way to do it. I think the verdict is out on how that works. I don't think there's any replacement for sitting in an office and like looking at each other. And I can get specific examples. And I've done full remote work since 1999. But the sitting together is like truly irreplaceable. At the same time, there's certain and like the speed you can move, et cetera. But at the same time, there's so many, organizations that are full remote. I do think full remote works. My point of view is there's either full remote or you're in an office. The in-between thing is suicidal. But this is my personal opinion.
Why?
Well, because if you're full remote, then the online space becomes the physical space.
Right.
Like at Nullsoft, which made Winamp in the late 90s, we were full remote, and we had this thing called IRC where we lived. Yep. It was a space that we lived in, and not only us, we had the people who lived with us in IRC became Last.fm, Napster, et cetera. Right. Like they were people who hung out in pound Nullsoft on EFnet. Like that's full remote works, and there are big companies that do that. Whether it's WordPress. There's one of the Git companies that's like that. There's a ton of companies in that space or that they're that type of thing, new full remote. At the same time, I saw that Dell has said like, okay, if you're remote, you're not getting promoted. And what I would say is like, they just put on paper what was already the case, right? The whole company's in one place and you're, in Utah riding a mountain bike, guess what? You're never getting a promotion. Like that was true unstated. Now it's just true stated. That's why I mean, I think the mix doesn't work. If you're not near the boss, you're not going to get the massage. Right.
Right.
So anyway, I think that there's, if you're 21, you've got more choice than ever, especially if you're, and the nice thing is you can probably kind of go where you want and then go from there. of course, it depends on, on what your skill is, but certainly if your skill is engineering,
You could do that.
yeah, you can do that.
And in terms of the product that you guys officially released last week, which was pretty big news when you guys announced it, because Tony Fadell designed it, right?
Correct. Yeah. So we announced we started working on in 21 and we announced in December of 22 a new product, a new hardware wallet called Stax, Ledger Stax, and it's Tony Fadell designed it, as you said, and the idea was just better user interface, and we announced it in December of 22 with the intention to ship it in March of 23. And we finally started shipping it last Tuesday, which is May of 24. And the reason is it's uses a completely different e-ink technology. So it's e-ink like your Kindle, but where an e-ink screen or your Kindle is a glass screen with silicon on glass. This is an organic substrate, an organic material on plastic. And the technology has been around for like 25 years, but it's never been brought to market. And so we got comfortable that we could do it. And then the supplier that thought they could do it spent all of their money trying to do it and went out of business. And we had to, and even after the CEO of E-Ink then said, I think it's too hard. I found another company in China that wanted to keep going with it. And after, months and months and months of pushing on it, because the thing is that the product is, or the technology is very doable. The question is, can you mass produce it? So the first company thought yes, and poured a lot of money into the front of that process. But it turns out that getting to mass production took a lot more time and a lot more money than they had thought. But we did finally get there. And yeah,
it looks great.
And what I'll do is, we don't even need to talk more about it. Just go watch our movie. We made a little 20 minute.
Is this the movie that I watched on YouTube? The Road to Ledger Stax?
Yes, please.
Okay. Yeah. I'm watching
that's on YouTube.
Now. It's on YouTube. And, like I've been saying, it doesn't matter what you think about me or Ledger or crypto or anything. If you like innovation and you like, stories of building things and overcoming very difficult problems, you'll like the story. Plus, it's only 20 minutes. So what do you have to,
Kathy's, go check it out. We love that type of stuff.
I saw it I had it playing on my phone while you were.
Thank you. I'll tell you just quickly to give you, a little bit of backstory on that'll actually make it more fun to watch. The impetus for making that little film is Johnson Lee, who is the CEO of E-Ink that you'll see in the film. And in particular, because E-Ink didn't really want to help us make this screen. They were excited about it. They wanted it to exist, but their opinion was this thing is too hard to make. And, it's really too risky in a way to do it. Yeah. And so when we finally did it, I had dinner about 3 weeks ago in Taipei with Johnson, who's the CEO of E-Ink. And again, it'll come together if you watch the little film, because you'll see that he's super complimentary. But I went into the dinner a little hot, to be honest, because I'm like, yeah, we built it kind of like, no help from you guys. But he was so excited. He's like, what he said to me, and that was why I said, okay, I got to make this little film, because he actually recontextualized it for me, because I was so, I'm in the weeds and you can't see the forest for the trees sort of situation. Yep. But he said, Ian, you guys didn't make a device. You guys changed the world of displays. Like 10 years from now, this is going to be in an AR lens, and it'll always be the case that the first time that technology came to market after 25 years of trying was in Ledger Stax. And then I was like, okay, that's what I have to, that's how I have to, that's the story I have to tell. Because you might just think like, oh, it's a curved e-ink screen. Cool. Nice. That's cool. Nice trick, guys. But no, the fact that it is an organic screen, this is actually, and you'll see it in the documentary, it's the most environmental screen, made. We don't make that claim really because our scale isn't big enough that we're like saving the planet or anything. But when you think about this thing made at scale, it's the only screen on the planet that's made at less than 100 degrees Celsius. So when again, we're little Ledger, so let's not overstate it. But if you think about, again, a future where, more and more and more and more screens are made using this technology, it is actually, significant in the world of display technology. So yeah,
it's incredible.
Ian, I have a personal question for you. Because you're so, like, you just named like 7 cities that you've had, been in recently, and there's this whole mini movie about making this product, and you really did like this revolutionary thing. Do you have, or would you say you're good at or not good at, like how do you celebrate a win like that personally, that the project is done? Hey, we did impact technology in a really meaningful way. This isn't small. Like, do you have like a big or small way to tell your brain that you just accomplished something that was very, very hard?
It's a good question. I got to be honest.
It could just be tequila. But
it's a good question. I got to be honest. Like, I think, that there's a part of me right now that feels like this is, I don't know. It's bigger in some ways. And that seems a little crazy because, I have to say, like, when we sold Beats to Apple, that felt big, like a big bell ring, right? Even when we launched Apple Music, that felt like a big bell ring. So I don't know. I mean, I think personally, I take pride in these things. And I think doing something like making the little documentary is a bit of a celebration for me, because to me, it's also a way that the team that's worked so hard on this can, have this thing that they can send to their mom, and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. And even if you don't understand every word in this video, you can tell that it really does mean something. And it's something that we can look back on.
So you feel like you're just good at soaking it in and appreciating the moment.
Well, it also, I think there is always kind of a next step, I mean, and I think, to be honest, we're also, I guess, in some ways pretty bad at it, because Tony and Pascal and I are already like heavily arguing about like the next 3-year roadmap. Right. You know what I mean? We're like, okay, well,
what's next?
What's next? And we're looking at, we have some more big announcements coming up at Bitcoin Nashville. So we're like working on that and trying to finish it. And, we've got to get, we've got all the pre-orders that came right after we launched this thing, and it's going to take us, through the beginning of July to get through all of those. And, but I think that the celebrations do come in little bits, because even just like for all of us, just seeing people open these boxes on YouTube, you know what I mean? We're sending around among the team, like, oh, here's another one. Look, like someone's doing an unboxing on YouTube. And that's what's really rewarding, especially after, waiting a year and 2 months for this. I mean, it'd be one thing if we were 30 days late, but we're a year and 2 months late. So, it's a kind of a different level of release.
I just want to call something out.
Yeah.
We're talking about Fauci.
Yeah.
And we're talking about, admittance.
Yes.
And you just said we are a year and 2 months late. You did not make an excuse. You just said we are late. I think that's like very commendable in like today's society, where instead of anybody admitting anything, they just deflect and blame it on someone else. They Fauci it.
Yeah.
That's the saying.
The one thing I'll say though is that, like, I can do that. Because you're not
vouching it right now.
No,
you could have easily said, the Chinese.
Yeah, that's why
I can do that because we succeeded in the end. It's like I definitely had, people on Twitter, and, every time we'd say something on Twitter, someone would say, when Stax? And, I want to respond to that, but what am I going to say? I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like, do you realize we have a 1% fucking success rate?
And also then the last thing I wanted to do was to say, oh, I think it's going to be May. You know what I mean? Because if I'm wrong, then I get skewered.
Yeah. I mean, that's what Elon does.
Yeah, exactly.
He just says full self-driving next month.
So I would, so what we did is every few months we'd make another video basically apologizing, saying, hey, we're really sorry. We know you pre-ordered. We're having a really hard time making these screens. We're working as hard as we can on it. As soon as we have some info, we're going to give you the info. If you want a refund, here's the link. Request a refund. We give you a refund. And so that's the other reason that the story is is so cathartic for me and for the rest of the team as well, is because it'd be very different if the news that I had was we gave up, you know, and it wasn't completely in our control. You know, I mean, if it hadn't been for this
it's just more of how you handle these things.
Yeah,
is a reflection of like company culture, and like when you think about the U.S. government as company culture,
terrible.
Everyone's
scamming. Everyone's trying to hide stuff.
There's
on the
always
company
voices though in all directions, right? Because there's certainly been voices that were like, oh, you know, you took too much risk by, you know, you're always take a risk, right? But you took too much risk by going down this particular product path. And the reality is that there was more risk than we thought there was. And I mean, I just, for me, it's like this is one of these stories where it almost couldn't, it would definitely, we wouldn't be where we were if there's any other way, because if we had known exactly how much risk there was, I mean, we certainly wouldn't have announced it. We probably wouldn't have gone down this path. At the same time, it is probably great now that we have. And these are the things that you really can't plan for. You know what I mean? Like you don't plan to have not enough information or kind of incorrect information to have, you know, a supplier who says they can do it turn out not to be able to do it. And then there are also, you know, there are a lot of times when it's out of your control, and sometimes in good ways and sometimes in bad ways. So, you know, we worked with a great company in China called DKE, but they wanted, you know, part of the reason they wanted to do this is because they would like to IPO, right? They're a company that makes the little e-ink screens, displays that go on shelves at supermarkets. You know, you see them all the time, right? Yeah. So it's great for their IPO story if they've got the new device made by Tony Fadell that is a first of its kind. And
by the way, just for people that don't know Tony Fadell,
this is the iPhone.
So Tony invented the iPod and brought it to Steve Jobs. He was one of the handful of people who co-invented the iPhone, and he invented Nest, which he then sold to Google, and he invests in deep tech. He and I moved to Paris at the same time, and we're friends. He built this, honestly, not because we asked him to, but because he couldn't help it. Because he's my friend, he saw the opportunity in the market. He's always wanted to build a device like this one. And, you know, if you read Tony's book,
because he doesn't need to work per se.
Yeah. If you read Tony's book, Build, he talks about how when he has an idea, he runs from it. And if it chases him down, then only then does he pursue it. And I think this is an idea that chased him down, truly. You know, and
so we had dinner like Jan 2020, like peak COVID, it was madness. I had dinner with him, and he's like, meet me at this restaurant this time. So I got there early, and there's another couple sitting, and I don't know who they are. They start talking, and they're like, are you friends with Ian? He goes, yeah. So, you know, Ian knows a million people. So we're just sitting and talking. And then at the end of the night, I was like, who are these people? Tony Fadell.
It's crazy.
And his wife.
It's so crazy.
Because we ended up going out to like a party that night, and I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And that's really is like, and I have to say, like, we were friends for a long time before we worked together. Watching him work. Cool. I mean, this is the only person I've ever met who can, he can imagine the circuit board and the billboard at the same moment. Right.
That's crazy.
He knows
that's
the market.
Hot line.
Yeah.
That's a hot line. Circuit board to billboard.
He knows the market opportunity, you know, at the same time, you know, I mean, and he just has, and really the whole thing with this is, you know, Ledger has the best security experts on the planet. And what you'll see me say in the little doc is if our team had built this without Tony, it wouldn't be as beautiful or as easy to use, you know, because they have excellence in terms of expectations on, you know, the look, the feel, the industrial design, and, you know, and then really connecting it to what does a user want to do with it. At the same time, if Tony had built it alone, it would be like a lot of other devices that are out there, which just are or things that aren't even devices. They're just, you know, software, which is fundamentally insecure, and people are okay with that because they're like, wow, that's how you get to mass market. But no, if you're dealing with people's value, you can't sacrifice security. That's the difference between the internet and the world of blockchain. Like you can't take shortcuts on security if it might have someone's life savings in it. Like that's just the reality. So anyway, it's I mean, like I said, to me, if you like innovation, it's a great story.
Yeah. Can't wait to watch it.
I can't wait to watch it.
Thank you.
I think someone I know will definitely need a Stax. My guy, Roaring Kitty.
Roaring Kitty is back.
Roaring Kitty posted some weird ass Uno card today, and it
What
now
was it?
gets.
What? I'll look it up on my phone while you.
It's literally like the green Uno card that lets you go both ways, I think. And
Is it the reverse?
the reverse, yes.
Okay.
And
Wow.
he posts that, and then someone at one of the new Reddit boards posted that he has like $115 million stake in GME GameStop right now. He has some like crazy $60 million call option that he's way in on the money. And it's obviously caused the stock in overnight trading. This is Sunday night. It's up like, whatever, 20% now at night. Gonna be complete fucking mania tomorrow. This dude is manipulating the stock in a legal way because all he's doing is posting memes. Which is
when you
illegal.
love to hear the conversation with his lawyer, where the
He's like,
lawyer's,
Jim, can I please post this
the
meme,
lawyer's-
Jim?
the lawyer's looking at the meme and he's like, or even better, right? He's looking at 10 memes and picking one. What about no, definitely not this one. You're going to go to jail.
Like this crazy.
If you post that one, you're going to jail. But this one, I think I can keep you out of jail.
Right. It's just an Uno card. It's like, just an Uno card, Jim.
Yeah.
It's a reverse, Jim.
But he basically looks like this is his position. And by tomorrow morning, because he has a call option, it's going to go berserk. He's probably going to have $200-300 million. This fucking guy.
I so want to see this documentary. There's part 2, I guess, is what it is, right?
Yes, the part 2 is
right. Who'd have thought there'd be a part 2?
Because I think what you felt like at the end was he did make money, he did win to some extent, but
to a huge extent,
yeah, but like he didn't like it was like the David Goliath story, right? Like we thought Wall Street was going to change forever. In fact, it tripled down on exactly what it was, and Ken Griffin is going to be the richest guy in the world at some point,
right?
And if this flukes out after, I don't know, Tuesday, he's a billionaire.
Right.
Then the story is epic. Because if he ends up being a billionaire, he won, in my opinion. Because that ultimately means he's on the playing field with the big boys, and he did it
totally
unconventional, which is what I believe a lot about what crypto is about, leveling the playing field.
Yeah.
And I think if he did it in the most unconventional way,
he's like the Mr. Beast of finance. Like I would say the same way that Mr. Beast is disrupting like Hershey's.
Oh, media, Hershey's, everything.
Right. Like this guy is disrupting Bill Ackman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same strategies, new media.
Yeah.
Right.
And very little to start with. That's the difference.
Nothing. Didn't he work at fucking H&R Block or something?
Yeah, I think a little bit above that. Yeah.
Fidelity. Come on, dude. I watched the movie. The guy was in a basement. Come on.
So I think that the way I love to think about every business at this point is that everything is about attention generation and value capture, right? Like what I think we talked about this once upon a time that I said to Ben, I don't know, Louis Vuitton, Drake, Beeple, and Damien Hirst are all in the same business. And the business is attention generation and value capture. And Louis Vuitton's value capture is much better than Drake's, right? Because Drake is really good at attention generation, but Spotify is a super inefficient way to capture value. So if you think about it, like to your point about, it being like the new version of he's just using the media tools that are at his disposal, right? The media tools that are at his disposal are Reddit. What is activist investing? You know what I mean? Right. Like you
it's attention.
It's attention. Yeah. It's like, let's get attention on this, business for this reason. And then, there's that always moves the stock, right? So
Right.
you're in uncharted territory in terms of, what is legal, what is manipulation, but of course you are like,
But isn't what
media
Bill
has
Ackman does
changed.
manipulation all day?
Yeah.
Taking whatever he did during COVID, short on the S&P, and then going and making all the rounds in media saying, my thought is...
Exactly.
I'm long America.
Yeah. Well, in the beginning, short, and then he went long, right?
Yeah.
He flipped and went long. Yes.
Yeah.
Like that's straight up manipulation.
Yeah.
This guy posted a Uno card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the problem is in Bill Ackman's defense, he's saying macro, the market. Roaring Kitty is a one stock, and that's.
But when he
He's not
shorted
even naming the
Herbalife,
stock though. Everything is inference. Everything is
when Bill
inference.
Ackman shorted Herbalife, he went on a press tour.
I
When
agree.
people short Tesla, they plant stories about
Oh, yeah.
employees are outraged.
Yeah. Oh, he's
It is
getting
sick.
sued. Yeah.
You have
Uno card.
Yeah.
who's the activist investor that has their own like media company now? Like they just basically said, we're going to create a newspaper.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the difference?
Yeah, that's fair. And I think the interesting thing is if you're one of these hedge funds today, you can now basically manipulate anything you want whenever you want. I think the company has to be small enough. Like, I don't think you can manipulate a $500 billion company, but you could probably manipulate a $5 billion company pretty easily.
But you have to build. The problem is you need a Mr. Beast. You need a Keith Gill.
So yeah. So I think,
Which that's like saying, as we know, is very hard. It's like saying to Hershey's, well, just go make 5 Mr. Beasts and then you'll...
no, but it's more like partnering with them. Right? Here's the problem. Where did Hershey's really fuck up?
Yeah, by not doing a deal with...
Just pay him the bag.
Right.
Who cares? How many times did we say, like, I vividly remember like 5-6 years ago, Snapchat should have just gone to the Kardashians,
Right.
given them $1 billion of stock and say, do never post anywhere else.
Right.
At the peak valuation of Snapchat, if you had done that,
Yeah.
and if you want to know anything about Kylie Jenner or Courtney or Kim or North, and you had to go to Snapchat,
Right.
you're going to Snapchat.
But now, don't you think it's too... Same way it's too late for Mr. Beast and Hershey's. Don't you think it's too late for Keith Gill and Pershing Square? Like, what do they do?
No, I think there's the next generation. Right. There are
You gotta
look,
find
if Bill Ackman wants to come to us and you want to manipulate some stocks,
We'll manipulate all day long.
give me a call, Bill.
Yeah, come on. Apple's in a lot of trouble, I heard.
We just saw what Tony Fadell built with Ledger. You're fucked.
Tony's focused on, he's on and upwards. Johnny Ives out.
Yeah,
They're
you guys
fucked.
are toast.
Let's see what the stock does tomorrow.
I thought you were going for $5 billion companies.
Right.
Yeah, if we're gonna go
went
big
for the moon.
Topple the whole thing.
Right. But yeah, I think they do that all day long. I think the old way of doing exactly what you're talking about with $5 billion type companies are things like planting stories, shorting and planting stories. That is using media.
Oh, the CEO got drunk last night and hit someone.
Yeah, or employees. Maybe there's lawsuits. Maybe there's people funding those.
Yeah,
I think that's the same formula.
Yeah,
but Keith Gill is it's like, what can't influencers manipulate? Like they have manipulated first, like lip fillers, and then lip kits, then shoes, then clothing, then whatever. Now they can actually influence stock movements on massive scale.
I'm gonna take a slightly contrarian view on this though, and say that I actually think the Roaring Kitty story is much more unique than that, right? Because there are influencers out there for every company, right? You pick anything, and there's influencers, there's affiliates, there's so many talking heads on whether it's on social shopping or YouTube or whatever that are pushing stuff, and it doesn't move things. And that's why I find the Roaring Kitty story so extraordinary, because the guy can do so little and move so much. That's why the part 2 that I want to see is, what's he been doing? Like, what's he been doing in all this time? He was quiet. He was dead quiet for so long.
Jerking off.
He's been playing Uno and stacking cash.
But if you think about it, like nobody who actually like manipulates stocks, like they don't know how to keep quiet. You know what I mean?
That's
Like he actually like managed to keep his mouth shut for so long. And then he comes back with a picture of a
Assassin
guy like
move.
leaning into a screen. And then he waits a couple weeks and he drops an Uno card. Like, what if it's nothing that we think it is? Like it could just be a lark. Like maybe the rumor about how much he's holding is false.
Bullshit.
Bullshit. You know? So I love it. I love it actually, because if it was just a dude on YouTube, like pimping something he liked or talking shit about some company he hated, like that would be like, okay, that feels like another day to me. But this feels like, I don't know. This is like Sade, and we're talking about, you know, somebody who has a record every month or something. You know, like this is special. I think.
The silence is very admirable.
I just wonder
this time in society where silence is not part of culture.
What was he thinking? What was he planning?
Yeah, he just like.
And who's been calling him?
Yeah.
What type of conversations has he had in the last 2 years?
And Ken Griffin is his partner now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and then that's literally, and then that's the thing I wonder is like, okay, 25 years from now, will this be, you know, just some like one of the like top 10 rich dudes that everybody like looks to for advice? Yeah. Or is he forgotten? You know what I mean? Like, is this truly his path to being, you know, one of those, you know,
he's the next George Soros, and you just don't even know it.
And like, and our kids will be like, they won't even believe the origin story when we tell them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What if he's the next Warren Buffett?
Right, but he seems to be much more like I don't think he's made any other calls. He's a bit of a one-trick pony.
Warren Buffett about Coca-Cola and some insurance companies.
I guess that's it. I guess this is my question. Is there a master plan?
If he does one of these every decade, great. He could be the Michael Burry, the new Michael Burry.
Michael Burry hasn't done any damn shit.
But he has plenty of time to get the next. If he gets one more in 10 years,
then he's golden child.
Wow, Michael Burry. He waits 30 years
and he does a trade
and he picks them off and makes $3 billion each time.
I think he could do it. I think that's within his power. If he
could do it.
Yeah.
Because what is he in his 30s?
Roy and Kitty, gotta be.
Yeah. So he's young.
What do you know? Oh,
okay.
Maybe very low 40s, 42.
Okay. Yeah, so he's got
time.
50 years of.
In 50 years, he can say, you know what? Gatorade, not loving it. Bam. He's a genius.
You know what they have? Too much sugar.
Right. I like the stock. To the moon. Yeah. I don't know. People just love a good story. And I think his story is
I would buy a Roaring Kitty ETF blindly.
That's worth some allocation. I agree.
Yeah. You just want exposure.
Yeah.
I know we're running up on time, but I want to just quickly do two things. One, Starlink is launching a cellular mobile service.
Yeah.
They're going right after probably the most valuable piece of recurring revenue on Earth, which is your cell phone bill.
Right. I mean, Elon is just.
I mean,
this is huge.
I don't even think people. It's like a headline, and I don't think people appreciate how. Here's why I think it's so crazy.
Yeah.
The brand of Elon Musk, the brand of Starlink, everyone wants to participate in. Not everyone at home can get even my house, I got Starlink. I paid a fuckload of money to put it on my roof, but I have a dumbass tree from a bank next to my house, and I can't, it blocks the full area needed to be effective. So there was always some latency on the internet, which wasn't worth it for me. So I took it down and I canceled my service.
Right.
So I wanted to participate in Starlink and I could not. If you tell me Starlink is launching and I could cut AT&T,
right,
I have no brand allegiance to AT&T. I fucking zero. Nobody has allegiance to their cell phone carrier.
Well, and everybody wants the
Zero.
same thing. Everybody wants uninterrupted connectivity, right? So if the satellite
as
can bring
cheap as
you that-
possible.
And
cheap as possible.
And my understanding is what they're doing is Starlink is going to fill in the blanks, right? So it's when you're not connected to a cell tower. So you're basically using the satellite to get that network service to places where it couldn't get before. Now, I mean, I have 2 Starlinks in Italy, one in my office setup and one at my home setup. And you know, I've put them far enough above the trees that they work perfectly. And it's true. Like I said earlier, like Starlink has repriced the earth. I'm able to go and work in a place that I couldn't have gone to work 10 years ago because I wouldn't have had the connectivity I needed to do my job. Right. Yeah. And so if you now like apply that to, you know, just everybody walking around and you can literally not have a dead spot. Okay. Maybe moving around LA, we don't need that. And it wouldn't be that useful, but there are a lot
in New York, you do though.
There are a lot of places on Earth. Right. My question is, and this is what's unclear to me, is does this really help you in New York City? Because to your point about that tree from the bank, you know, keeping you out, it's hard. I think that you might have the same problem in New York City that you have right now. I'm not sure it solves that problem is my point.
So you think the service that they're going to provide is you still keep AT&T and this is the backup and this is like a rich man's.
So their customer is AT&T.
With this mobile thing, that was what I got out of it. And I think if I read correctly, they're starting with a partnership with T-Mobile, which by the way makes perfect sense. Yeah. Right. But look, the disruption, no matter how you look at it, the disruption is here. Right. Yeah. So my burner number for the US, I moved from Mint to Helium because for $20 a month, I get unlimited, right? Which I didn't have with Mint. Yeah. Plus I make money by helping, you know, Helium map the network, and that's all running on, you know, T-Mobile's MVNOs. But if you just take like there's already a massive disruption there, right? And now if you pile on top of that a partnership that's basically like a no dead zone, thanks to Elon partnership. Right. You know, it is, you know, massively disruptive for big companies, which are already at kind of, you know, peak subscription, right? I mean, if you're AT&T and you've already got 110 million subscribers or whatever you got, I mean, you're already moving toward trying to get another $5 on the bill because you're not going to get that many more subscribers, right?
No, you peaked out.
Yeah, you peaked out. There's only 330 million people in the country. So everything is just trading one for somebody else. Like it is literally a zero sum game at that point. Right. But I think it's huge news.
It's just the fact that this is just how you fund getting to Mars. Like this guy comes up with a lofty, like I want to move civilization to Mars.
Okay. But I got to make like $17 trillion to do it. So
like the gasoline is fucking a revolutionary game-changing thing, and it's just to fund the actual mission. Like he didn't sit down and say, I can change Wi-Fi and I can actually give global. He sat down and said, we need to get humanity to Mars. Now, how do I reverse engineer that?
Yeah. What will all these idiots pay for?
Yeah.
A car, some internet service, and not sit in traffic. Done.
And I can take over. I can revolutionize private space travel.
Yeah.
Now he gets paid to do what the government used to do. And then I'm going to launch all these fucking satellites. And by the way, unless a tree's in your way, you have internet wherever you go.
I guarantee you that he was at a Rufus Du Sol show in bumblefuck, you know, Arizona. And he's like, I don't have goddamn internet.
Yeah.
And he called his chachi.
Probably on LSD.
He called me and he's like, we need internet right now.
Yeah. And like, then, Elon, you know all those rockets you've been building?
He looked up and said, the satellites are the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you're partying in the middle of the desert, there's no cell phone service.
I bet you it was probably that simple.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh, good point. He's like, this is perfect.
No trees. I don't have internet.
I'll have internet
I
here.
can make $2 trillion tomorrow. I guarantee you, he got stuck at a party Rufus the Soul was playing, and he's like, I want to send my babe a video of this, and I can't.
Right.
God damn it.
Right.
If only there
I
was
need
a
to
satellite.
solve this. Yeah. It's just fucking crazy. That's just like the fact that every project is like on a humanity changing level.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
I love it.
One guy doing just this, you'd be like, wow, what a revolutionary business person. This is the third thing he did on a Wednesday. Fucking crazy. Anyway.
I think you're right, though, that it is a what, kind of a what do we want to want sort of thing. Like the thing I always think about is, because I love reading things like Yuval Harari and Dalio, but what they lack is what Elon has in terms of, technical know-how, right? So it's almost like he is, I love that you say it that way, because that's exactly what it is, that he has set he set his sights on, something that's as ambitious as, Caesar or Alexander the Great. Right. And he has the sort of technical and scientific, knowledge to go, okay, well, these are the actual barriers to that. So how many of those can we knock down and build a couple of businesses on the way to doing that?
Yeah. And I just want to add one more element. It's kind of like you said about Tony Fadell, is like seeing the billboard and the circuit board. He sees the like moonshot, humanity changing goal. Then he sees the business plan that could fund it. And then he sees the technical issues with the business plan. I mean, that's just, JFK is like,
you need to come up with like circuit board to billboard is so good.
Oh, no.
Well, and the product, but also the product, I have to say on the product, like as a Starlink user, it's amazing. Like, first of all, like when Starlink first came out.
The mobile app is so good on Starlink. The way you set up your internet, you feel like, look, when my kids did it, so I put it in our backyard
Your kids
first.
did it? Is that easy?
No, the kids were watching. They're like, is that a robot? I was like, fuck, it might as well be.
Yeah.
The shit's like moving around
also,
looking for the internet.
It has, without me doing anything, it has steadily come down in price the whole time I've had it. Right? Like that you just get the discount. Like it is actually a new way of doing a business. It's like really simple.
Provide real value.
No, so I just got the repeaters for the ones I have at the house, and you open the box and the instructions are a single piece of paper with 2 pictures on it. It's literally like plug it in, open your app. It's so easy, well done. Because I think that's the other amazing thing is, what it reminds me of is when the iPhone came out. Because what I remember really well is even in 2007, I would have bet against the iPhone, partly because mobile carriers were like a cabal, and you couldn't imagine that anyone could break them. It was like mobile sucked because the mobile carriers wanted you to have, a Nokia phone with Symbian operating system. It was like it worked the opposite of the internet in a way, right? The way the internet was kind of
not free.
Yeah, it was not free. It was not intuitive. It was not open. It was the opposite. It was closed, expensive. We're always going to charge you for every megabyte you send, and nothing's ever going to be unlimited, et cetera, et cetera. And it took Steve Jobs to go, no, motherfuckers, it doesn't work like that anymore. Right? Yeah. Like, no. And remember, the iPhone was actually sold by Apple. Yeah. No one had done that before. Like you couldn't buy a phone from Nokia. You could only buy a phone from your phone company, Yeah.
I still remember the thought of walking into an Apple store to buy a phone was like, you can't do that.
I remember when I got the first.
You go to AT&T to buy a phone, not Best Buy.
Yeah.
When I got that first iPhone, right when it launched, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah. I'm talking when I saw the announcement, I was like, so you're telling me I'm going to go to the mall to an Apple store and get my phone?
Well, because what was interesting for me in particular is I didn't have an iPod.
Right. You went straight to iPhone?
I went straight to iPhone.
How is that possible?
I wasn't an Apple user.
What'd you listen to music on?
He had a Discman till last year.
Yeah. What the fuck?
Mobile, I didn't listen to music. I had Winamp on my fucking computer and I listened to music. That's how I listen to music.
So you didn't have headphones and a mobile anything?
Never.
Wow.
I never owned an iPod in my life.
Did you have a Walkman? Did you have a Discman?
Yeah, or I just, but like the only time I was mobile at that time in my life was really when I was running. And I didn't listen to music when I run. So
weren't you in college when? No.
I was fucking 28 years old or whatever when iPhone came out.
And you didn't have a fucking mobile anything?
I had a phone.
Right, but no music.
I would listen only at my desk.
I hear you. And you just ran in silence.
To this day, I run in silence. The real reason why I run in silence is I don't want to get mowed down by a car.
Right.
You got to get those shocks ones. Those are nice. But real G's bone in silence like lasagna.
Yeah. He's dropping Little Wayne.
He's poetic. He said circuit board to billboard. And
circuit board to billboard is unbelievable.
Yeah. Is there a last one you wanted to do or no?
Quick, last. I want a Bitcoin prediction for year end.
Oh man. I'll give you 100,000 for year end. I think that's
okay.
I think we get a boring. I think we get a boring summer, and I think which is fine. Things just continue to move sideways. But look, man, if we've been talking about self custody at Ledger for 10 years, and it's always crickets. It's like, okay, idealistic guys, sure, right. I did not have Trump talking about self custody on my bingo card for 2024, but yet here we are. You got everybody lining up.
Trump wins, it rips.
You got lining up to be
200.
Everybody lining up to the crypto.
We got to pile in, guys.
Yeah,
that's going to be in the hedge fund.
But definitely. You know, to me, the next 18 months are big for Bitcoin.
I mean, doesn't this halving get us anything?
I mean, the halving.
We just had the halving. I thought we were going to get
already happened. Look, the halving got us from 30 to 70. So yeah,
wasn't it after that though?
No,
it was right before.
Buy on rumor, sell on news.
Right.
Yeah, and it's also like the question is, at the halving, how much of it was priced in at that time?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, but there's a ton of support around where it is right now at 67, right? Yep. So. It's just, it's really, I think, and there's so much going on. Like, look at what happened in Washington over the last week. It's just, a true 180, absolutely unprecedented. But it's also, it's this ping pong where, it's clear that the Biden administration got, super scared by what they were seeing in the polls and pushed that ETF, the ETH ETF through really, really quickly. But then, just a week later, you get this veto on the banking bill. So it's just this ping pong. So I think it kind of ping pongs around. I think the election probably, does have a material impact on it one way or another. But there's so much stuff happening, really everywhere. It's like, and you look at, even the, MasterCard like stablecoin announcement from last week. There's just like there's a steady drumbeat of innovation, and so I don't think we're anywhere close to seeing the top of this cycle. I think the next 18 months are still electric.
Yeah, awesome. Trump's got us.
UFC to Bitcoin.
Yeah,
that should be his biggest chant. UFC to Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, all he has to do is say like, "Yo, I'm locking up Fauci. I'm ripping Bitcoin. No regulation. Whatever. Everything's clear."
And UFC. You go till death.
Yeah. And you know what? The Olympics are every month now.
USA.
If no one's there to compete with us, we win automatically.
Ian, thank you so much.
Thanks guys for having me. It's fun to be with you.
I know, it's great. Hopefully we'll hang this week.
Yeah. See you soon. Kathy's, do we have shout outs? Fuck yeah. Kathy's, have a great week. We're out of here. Don't forget to DM on and say mean things to him.
Fuck you woke bitch.
Yeah, you woke lying elitist bitch. All right. Bye, everybody.